Hello everybody, I'm Miss Nessa and this is Songwriting Class, where we learn about how our favorite music is made and we build the skills to write our own songs. Today we're going to start to learn our way around the keyboard. We're going to learn two scales and practice playing them, and then we're going to try writing our first original melody. You can complete this lesson with any keyboard instrument you have at home, whether it's a grand piano with real strings in it or a little toy that runs on batteries like mine. You could even use an accordion or a xylophone, any instrument that has 2 rows of keys. You're also going to need masking tape, scissors, and a marker because we are going to label these keys. Now, if you're using an electric or an electronic keyboard, first thing we got to do is turn it on, right? So let's look at the front of our keyboard, start on the left, and look to the right. If we don't see it right away there, it's either going to be a switch or a button that says power or on, off, or it might have a little symbol like a computer has that means power. Or if you don't see any of those, it might be the volume knob. Sometimes when you turn the volume on a keyboard all the way to the left, it'll turn the keyboard off, and then if you turn it to the right, it'll click on. If you don't have a volume knob or a switch or a button on the front of the keyboard, it might be back here, might be back here, so look around until you find it. If you do find it and you can't get the keyboard to turn on still, you might need new batteries or you might need a power supply, so ask your family for help with that. Or if you're really stumped, send me an email. I'll put an email address at the end of this video and we can figure it out to get your keyboard working for you. Now most keyboards that are designed for young people have speakers built into them, but some keyboards don't have speakers, and sometimes you just want to use headphones for privacy, give your parents a little break from listening to you practice. So to plug in our headphones, we're going to look on the back for a jack. A jack is just a little hole that you plug something into. So the jack is going to be labeled output or headphones or output/headphones, and it's either going to be an 1/8 inch, which is really small, and if it's 1/8 inch, you could just plug in a regular headphone right into it. That should work. Or it's going to be a 1/4 inch, which is twice as big, and if it's 1/4 inch, to use headphones you're going to need an adapter that looks like this. Now I bought this online for like 75 cents. Maybe you could find one, maybe your family could help you. This is a 1/4 inch on this side and an 1/8 inch on this side. So when I put it on my headphones, then it could go right into an instrument jack. Great. So now we have our keyboard on, and we can hear it. So let's try to find a sound that we like, because most electronic keyboards have a bunch of different sounds they can make. Most keyboards made since the 90s are going to have a little screen with some numbers and some buttons that also have numbers on them. So use the buttons to put a number on the screen, and that number is probably going to select an instrument sound that you're playing. You might also have plus and minus buttons by the numbers that will let you just scroll through the different sounds. So let's hear some of the different sounds my keyboard can make. Oh, why isn't that working? It's just the same sound over and over. I'm so confused. Well, these numbers can change different things on the keyboard, not just the sound it makes. So to make sure it's changing the sound, we're going to look for another button that's either going to say tone, voice, or instrument. So on mine it says voice, and it's right here, and it's a little sticky. So when you hit voice, that makes sure that when you select this number on the screen, it's going to be the number of the voice. And a lot of keyboards, including this one, has a list printed right on it with all the different instrument sounds and their numbers. So say I want to play slap bass 2. Slap bass 2 is number 38, so I'm going to hit 38. Little Seinfeld music for you. So yeah, now I can use the plus and minus buttons to scroll through different sounds. Now this keyboard has 132 different sounds. How many does yours have? Oh, that's nice. The other thing this screen and these numbers could change is maybe your keyboard has some automatic drum beats it can play. My last video I used a little automatic drum beat. So you can use the same numbers to select those, and they might be, again, they might be in a list printed on the keyboard, they might not. So this time we're going to look for, instead of voice, tone, instrument, we're going to look for a button that says beat or rhythm or style or pattern. This one says style, so I'm going to push style, and the first beat that's selected is just called 8-beat 1. So I'm going to look for a button that says start, stop, or play, pause. So that's 8-beat 1. Now what beat do I want to hear? Maybe I want to hear a jazz samba. Jazz samba is 78. So let's put 78. Okay, that's fun, isn't it? I like using the beats on the keyboard because they help you play in time instead of playing to a metronome or with another person. So now that we have a sound that we like, let's turn our drum beat off and let's look at our keys. Now we're going to start talking about notes. A note is just a tiny sound that has a pitch, and pitch is how we hear frequency. So sound is a vibration, right? It's air shaking around you. The faster it vibrates, the higher a pitch we hear. So a note is a sound that's vibrating at a particular speed. The speed that it's vibrating at isn't changing. So you know, a lot of keyboards are going to have sound effects on them, and young people love to play those sound effects, and I love how they sound, but sometimes you can't play a note with the sound effect because the vibration isn't a steady pitch. The pitch is changing. So that's a sound, that's a backwards cymbal sound on here, and that doesn't have a particular pitch, right? That doesn't have a note that you can sing. It's actually a bunch of different frequencies at once. You can't pick out the fundamental frequency, which is what we hear as pitch. So find a sound that sounds like a musical note that you can sing. What did I have before? Oh, I hate that. No. Okay, that's a little pizzicato string sound. That'll work. So let's start looking at the keys themselves. And this is when we're going to get them labeled, if they're not already labeled. I'm going to just write directly on these keys with a marker because somebody already did that and it wore off, but you can use stickers, so once you have all your notes memorized, you just peel them off, use a little Windex, get the stickum off, and then you're all set. Okay, let's look at the keys. We got the white keys all in a row. The black keys are in groups. All the way up the keyboard, they're in groups of 2s and 3s. 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. All the way up, right? So find 2 black keys that are not part of a group of three, but just two by themselves. The white key on their left is C. So here's two black keys, that's C. Here's two black keys, that's C. Here's two black keys, that's C. So I'm going to label our first C right here. And then we're going to go to the right and keep labeling the white keys. So after C, we have D, E, F, G. Now G is the last letter in our musical alphabet. So after G, we start back at A. We don't go to H. There's no H. So after G is A, then B, and then listen, we're back at C. And again, we're on the left of two black keys, just like I said. So now we have this C and this C. Well, what's the difference between those C's? One is higher and one is lower. Also on this keyboard, this one sounds shorter and this one sounds longer because this sound is actually a recording that's sped up. And this one is playing twice as fast as this one. This C is half as fast as this one, and this C is half as fast as that. So we're talking about the air vibrating, the air molecules shaking around us. So when you play a higher C, it's going twice as fast as it was a moment ago. And over here, even twice as fast as that. Now we call the difference between this C and this C an octave. Now when you think of an octave, think about an octopus with 8 legs, or an octagon with 8 sides. An octave has 8 notes. From this C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So C is our 8th note in this pattern. You could also count an octave from D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we know this is also going to be D. Or you could count down from D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So octave is 8 notes. How many octaves does your keyboard have? Start from the lowest note on the left and count your first octave. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my keyboard has 4 octaves. Yours might have more or less. You could also find out how many octaves does your voice have. You could sing the lowest note you have. I'm going to sing. So I'm singing a low C. Then I'm singing C an octave above. Oh, now I'm singing a C an octave above that. But I don't think I can get any higher. Now, different people can sing at a different range, right? If you ever listen to Mariah Carey, she has a crazy vocal range, 5 octaves, which is way more than most people can sing, and it's more than this keyboard can do. So I labeled 1 octave of keys. You could label all of them if you want, because the pattern is going to repeat. So we have these 7 different letter note names that repeat all the way up the keyboard. So it's going to go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, etc. all the way up. Now our keys are labeled. We can finally start practicing our scales. What is a scale? A scale is a series of notes that go in order of pitch, and you can play them up and down the keyboard. Think about scaling a ladder, right? Climbing a ladder where each step is a different note and each one's a little bit higher than the last one, or if you're going down, it's a little bit lower. So you can climb from the bottom to the top or the top to the bottom. The two scales that we can play with these notes that we've already labeled on the white keys without using any of the black keys, the two scales we can play are C major and A minor. So first, let's play our C major scale, which is what we just did. Now I'm going to take my thumb, put it on C, my pointer finger is on D, my middle finger is on E, and my ring finger is on F. So my first four fingers of my right hand are on those first four keys. And then I'm going to slide my hand over when I get to that fourth note. Now my thumb is on G, my pointer is on A, my middle finger is on B, and my ring finger is on C. So just using those four fingers. You could, pick it out with one finger, but to get faster, you're going to want to incorporate more fingers. Now if you can do it with one hand, maybe try doing it an octave spaced apart with both hands. You can also sing along while you play this scale, and you've probably heard the other names for these notes instead of the letter names. You could sing do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And those are the names of the notes relative to the scale. So do is the name of our first note, re is our second note, mi is our third note, fa is our fourth note, sol, fifth, la, sixth, ti, seventh, and then do is our octave again. So those names will apply to other scales as well. They'll be the same, but the letter names will change when we learn other scales. So in our C major scale, C is called our root note, or our tonic, or do. Those all mean the same thing, do, root, tonic. So let's hear how each of those notes in the scale sounds when combined with C, when played at the same time. Okay? So what we're listening to are the different intervals in our scale. An interval just means the distance between two notes. So the distance between C and D, which are very close together, is called a second. D is our second note in the scale. E is our third note in the scale, and the distance between C and E is called a major third, because we're playing a major scale. And we'll talk about what that means in the future. So that's our major third. F is our fourth. G is our fifth. Let's listen to that in an octave lower too. A is our sixth. B is our seventh, and this is a major seventh because we're in a major scale. Okay, so interval, distance between notes, and we use intervals to make harmony, which just means playing more than one note at the same time. Now let's try our A minor scale using the same keys. I'm going to label a couple more. I'm going to label this A down here and this B down here. Now A minor also uses all the white keys, but it starts on A and it ends on A. That makes A our root note or our tonic. So A minor sounds like this. I'm going to do the same thing, 4 fingers and then slide them over. So your thumb's going to start on A, and once you play D, your thumb's going to start on E. So that's our A minor scale, which sounds a little different, right? We're going to talk about that later. And even though we're using the same notes, each note is going to represent a different interval because we have a different starting point. We have a different root note. So Let's listen to the intervals with A. So B is our second, and the second is the same in both these scales. C is our third in this scale, but it's a minor third, which sounds different than the third in our C major scale. So that was our major third, C to E. Our minor third from A to C has a different feel to it. Now our fourth above A is D, and the fourth is the same interval in a major or minor scale. A fifth is E, and that's the same kind of interval that we have in the major scale. So remember, C and G was a fifth. Also, A and E are a fifth. That's called a power chord, just playing a root note and a fifth. That's a really useful thing to know. F was our sixth above A. G is our seventh above A, and that seventh is a minor seventh, which is different from the seventh we learned before. So, terribly boring, right? I'm sorry to subject you to all of those numbers and letters, but now we're going to get to the fun part. Now we're going to write our own melody, and we're going to use only the white keys to do it, because that's what we've learned so far. What is a melody? Well, a melody is an original pattern that you make up. It's a pattern of notes played in any order and rhythm that the composer decides. So today you're the composer. You're going to pick how many of these notes that you want. You're going to put them in whatever order you want and play them with whatever rhythm you want. So take a minute to find something that sounds good to you on the white keys, playing just one key at a time. That's what makes it a melody. And it could be really short and simple and repetitive, or it could be longer with more changes. So what's my melody going to be today? I should have practiced something. So there's my melody. Once you have your melody, and you can pause the video and find something that you like before we continue, but once you have the melody, I want to hear you play a C with your left hand while you play the melody with your right hand, and hear how that sounds together. Now try playing the same melody with your right hand, but on the left hand you're going to play an A now. So you're playing the same thing, but it sounds different because the harmony is different. Your root note is different. The intervals are different. So you can change the feeling of a melody when you add a little harmony to it. I think that wraps up what we were trying to do today. I'm going to review a little vocab, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. So, octave. What is an octave? Do you remember? An octave just means playing 8 keys higher or 8 keys lower than where you started, and when you do that, you come back to the same note, but faster or slower than before, higher or lower than before. A scale. What is a scale? A scale is a series of notes in order of pitch, from low to high or high to low. Now, an interval, I talked about a lot, but I'm going to say it again. Interval is the distance between two notes. So one interval is a fifth. The distance from C to G is a fifth. The distance from A to E is a fifth. And a fifth is one of the most useful intervals that you'll hear a lot. A melody I just said, but it's a pattern of notes with a unique order and rhythm. And harmony is just putting notes together in a way that we like how it sounds, playing more than one note. Questions. How did the C major scale sound and feel to you? And how does the A minor scale sound and feel to you? What's the difference? And which one do you like better? think about the melody that you wrote. How does that feel to you? And if you wanted to sing this melody, what would you sing about? What words could you put to it? To answer these questions, or to ask me your own questions, or give me an idea of some songs that we could learn together in this class, send an email to info@communityworksla.org, info@communityworksla.org. And thanks, everybody. I'll see you next time.